Welcome, Speaker Egolf.
Hi, guys.
Hello. Hey. So, folks, how much longer do we want to wait before we start? Do we want to give people a couple minutes to continue to file in, or just jump into it? Hi, Brian. My name's Ken. I think I'm pretty sure we've met a couple times in the past. I'm a constituent, and I'm going to just be the sort of question asker and the time for this, since I know you're on a tight schedule. But I'll just say the name of the bill in question, give a little preamble that this group collectively has written up, and then start a timer for 3 minutes. And when that 3 minutes elapses, I'll go ahead and just flash you a minute or two fingers to wrap up before moving on to the next question. Does that sound okay?
We'll try. That is completely news to me. Hold on one second. Sure. This is a call about capital.
Sure.
We're up to 46 participants.
That's pretty good. That's really good. Nice job. Is that Rena?
Hi. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Sharon. I think I've met a few of you before as well.
Yes.
Yes, I'm the speaker's chief of staff. Thanks so much for in there. He's just taking a call for the last, 7 days straight on Capitol security and making sure everybody is safe for the next 60 days. But particularly I'm sorry that there's a little bit of an interruption.
No problem. It's understandable. Scary times.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I feel really good about the plan, everything that folks are putting into place, but it's not something I ever thought we would need at our beautiful Capitol. So it's kind of emotional to think about that.
Hope you're taking care of yourself too.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I think he's just finishing up.
Sorry for that, everybody. Spending a huge amount of time each day on plans to keep the insurrectionists out of the building, and it's
no problem. Totally understandable. We're sorry you have to do that.
Okay.
Okay. First question. So this one's about the Health Security Act. So the bill's ranked and retakes 2021 legislative been matched with the Abortion Decriminalization Act for the top spot. So we've heard that you've expressed the view that the HSA would be too expensive, and have heard from other legislators that they would like to have a more detailed understanding. If this version of the HSA is approved, it would create a board to work out all the details needed to get a precise understanding of costs, and then return to get legislative approval of the HSA. Support the bill in this form, and then if not, what amendments would be needed to make it palatable to you?
Yeah, so I have not seen a bill in its current form. I'm sure if it's been introduced yet or not. This year, Worth and I know this question came up during the session we had a few weeks ago. I think he and I are taking the same position on it, which is I have voted for this every time. I've worked closely with the sponsors each time the bills come forward to get whatever amendments were needed, get the bill routed as they wanted through the House. the devil is in the details. And we really need to get an understanding of where the Biden administration is going to go on this to see if there might be federal funding. We have as always, a tight budget situation. It's a leap before you look. This is the proposal that you just described. Sounds similar to what we attempted 2 years ago, and before it makes it to the floor. I don't serve on the health committee, but we'll make sure it gets through. And but it's really impossible, I think, to say, especially had an opportunity yet to read the bill, but the healthcare challenges in the state are enormous. That's why on our Tuesday healthcare, especially as it relates to COVID, it's why we have spent years since I've been speaker taking the best parts of the Affordable Care Act, putting them into state law, so that we have state-based. That's why we have drug importation in New Mexico that will now be coming online here very shortly. We have made universal access to contraception the law of the land in Mexico, and this we adopt the premium tax, or I'm sorry, rather we're going to create a state analog to the federal premium tax. Was abolished so that that can be used to make healthcare investments in New Mexico.
Excellent. Okay, thank you so much. So swift, we'll move on to the next one. This one's about the state public bank. So the state public bank would authorize a public bank owned by the state of New Mexico that finances New Mexico's infrastructure projects, energy projects, small businesses, and economic development. It invests public funds, taxes, and fees, and keeps them circulating in the state. It works in partnership with community banks, credit unions, and community development financial institutions to make loans that enhance local communities, money which currently goes to debt service on bonds with out-of-state banks and to their investors would remain in New Mexico for reinvestment. So the first question is, would you support creating a public bank? And if not, what amendments would be needed to make that bill palatable to you? And then the third question, or the complexity, is we've noticed that the Credit Union Association of New Mexico, including the State Employees Credit Union of NM, has endorsed the state public bank. So could the legislature seek testimony from the state treasurer and the state auditor on this proposal?
As to that, sure. I mean, anyone who wants to offer comment always can. I don't know if folks know, I introduced the first public bank legislation in New Mexico. I think I did it, Paul would know, 4 times maybe. The first one was the move the money bill, which would have taken, I can't remember exactly, something like $3.5 billion out of Bank of America and invested it in community banks and credit unions all over the state. Got that bill all the way to the Senate floor, and it failed for lack of time. I then introduced a bill to create the Bank of New Mexico, introduced that twice, ran into a lot of headway. And then we introduced a similar version that was called, that would have created the New Mexico Small Business Development Fund. And it was the same bill, just swapped out the word bank for fund. And it was a semantic change that was able to get the New Mexico Community Bankers Association to drop their opposition. And it was literally a 1-word change. And I think what you just described sounds very, very close to what I proposed. Dropping the word bank does 2 things. One, it has the possibility of getting to neutral or even possibly supportive from the community banks in New Mexico. Also, by making a development fund that does all of the things that you just described, that not having it be a bank gets you out from under all of the extremely complicated federal banking rules and regulations. Even if it's a state chartered bank, you still have to comply. And if you can do the same things like correspondent loan agreements with community banks and credit unions, infrastructure investment projects, bonding projects. You can do all those things as a development fund. You're not then regulated though as a bank. And the only reason under the banking laws that you would want to be called a bank is if you wanted to take deposits from New Mexico residents and hold them and give them checking and savings accounts. That I think is that's how they do it in North Dakota. The Bank of North Dakota also does mortgages. Keep in mind, we already have the New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority that's in the mortgage business, so we don't need that to be done through the New Mexico Bank. We already have it. As long as it is doing the same things, you gain a lot more support because you're not giving the appearance that you're competing with or taking on community banks. And I think it's important to remember that, especially during the times of COVID and earlier in the year when so many small businesses were applying for and getting loans through the Paycheck Protection Program, it was New Mexico's community banks that helped small businesses all over the state, as well as New Mexico CDFIs, get those loans in place and help save so many of these small businesses. The community banks in New Mexico do very good work. They're often the lender of last resort for many of our small businesses. And I don't think it's fair for the state to straight up compete with them. And because they're doing good work, and we should be focused on holding the big banks accountable. Wells Fargo, Bank of America being the two biggest that cause me concern. And anything that we would do to hold them accountable, I think needs to differentiate between the good work that is being done by our homegrown banks, Pioneer Bank in Roswell, or Bank of the Rio Grande, or you name it. All the community banks all over the state, they do good work, and the state needs to partner with them. And it sounds like this proposal will do that, and we could have some great partnerships and do a lot of good things. So I support the concept. We may want to think about changing a few words so that we're talking about creating development funds or small business funds as opposed to a bank, and not get too hung up on a few words here or there if those minor changes have the potential of getting you a lot more support.
Well,
Speaker, I was just gonna, you mentioned that one of your concerns about it was that they might compete with the community banks. And that's one of the things that's floating around out there and really isn't true. They would actually expand its community bank's capacity to lend. And would you be receptive to talking with somebody from the public banks about this?
Paul, I just said that I support the idea, and that what I heard is that it doesn't sound like it's going to compete with the community banks. I think Ken was saying that it's set up so that it'd be partnering with them. So that's fine. With all these things, the devil's in the details, and so we need to make sure that there isn't some unintended consequence where a well-intentioned idea ends up becoming problematic for the people that we're trying to help. And I've been a supporter of this since 2009, and I continue to be.
excellent. Okay, great. Thank you. So the next one is about paid sick leave. So the current paid sick leave bill that Retake endorses would provide mandatory paid sick leave for all New Mexico employees, including those working on a part-time, seasonal, or temporary basis. 1 hour of paid sick leave would accrue for every 30 hours worked. Sick leave could be used for one's own medical needs, to take care of a sick family member when one's place of business or child's school closes for public health reasons, during a public health emergency, or to deal with domestic abuse, sexual assault, or stalking. So first question is, do you support the bill in this form? Second one is the standard. If not, what amendments would be needed to make it palatable to you? And the third one compares that bill to HB 38, the Family Medical Leave Act, and that one differs slightly.
Yeah, so again, we do have Representative Rubio and Representative Chandler with two versions. I don't know what the differences are between them. The concept of whether you call it paid sick leave or earned sick leave, and maybe someone here could explain to me the difference, because the paid sick leave bill says you get 30 hours for every hour you work, and that's the same ratio that I believe is in the earned sick leave bill. So maybe that's just a semantic difference. I don't know if there's something that's mechanically different. I support the idea of paid sick leave, earned sick leave. I think the ratios that they have of 1 hour to every 30 is correct. I do believe that Representative Chandler's bill, which I've not read, but as she describes it to me, has a system similar to the unemployment system, where funds are accrued to help employers cover the cost. Basically, would create a new fund. I don't know if Representative Rubio's bill has that. I think that's important, because there's going to be this is going to apply to, when we think of it, I think the idea is, well, it's going to make, McDonald's and Walmart and all these big companies pay. We got to keep in mind too that there's going to be a lot of barbershops with 1 or 2 employees and a lot of very small businesses, and anything that we can do to make it easier to administer, easier to comply, and less costly to the employer is also very, very important, because a lot of our middle income people, a lot of folks that have small businesses also are, especially like in the South Valley of Albuquerque, you're talking about small entrepreneurs, people of color, and we want to make sure that as we adopt this program for the benefit of the employees, we're doing it in a way that's manageable and can be implemented by these small businesses. So doing things like any fee that would be collected or any premium that would be collected and then repaid, the more that we can do that through mechanisms that already exist in state government, so we don't have to reinvent an entirely new system, that's a good thing. The more we can make it seem familiar to other process and procedure that employers are already following, the better. We want to end up with a program that gets the dollars to the employees when they need it, and do that as efficiently as possible. I'd also suggest that folks be very careful. I heard you mention that there was that it would be applicable for a variety of different reasons, including sexual assault and other things. I would suggest that it would be available just simply on the employee saying, I need to take a sick day. You don't want to put an employee in the position of having to disclose to their boss that they may have been the victim of sexual assault. If you put too many things in the statute, then the employer is going to want to know, well, are you sick or what's going on, and ask questions, and that could be a big potential problem. So, especially, if this is an earned benefit that you're getting, you shouldn't have to tell your employer, why you need to take a sick day. You just say, I need the sick day, and if you've earned enough hours, you can take them without excuse. I think that's something that you should give some thought to.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So this next one is it's a little list. So please pardon me, bear with me as I charge through it. But this is about tax and revenue reform. So the preamble: New Mexico has one of the most regressive and inadequate tax systems in the nation. We've identified several changes to generate more revenue, each of which could be introduced into HB 2, the tax and revenue bill. So here's the list. Reinstitute a PIT rate structure with higher marginal rates at higher income levels. Eliminate the capital gains PIT exemption. Reinstitute an estate tax. Increase the motor fuel tax rate. Establish a structure for taxing recreational marijuana. Undertake a regular evaluation process for all state tax expenditures, and repeal or reform those that are ineffective. So which of these, and I know that's quite a list, but which of these policy options do you support? Which would you not support, and why? And then, is there adequate support in the caucus to pass significant tax and revenue reform?
You said reinstate the estate tax. I don't think it was eliminated. Hello?
Yes, sorry about that.
Yeah, so I don't think, the one thing you said that just stuck out was reinstate the estate tax. I don't think it was eliminated. But
perhaps Mr. Gibson or Mr. Durdak could speak to that one.
So I'll just start off by saying that when we passed House Bill 6, and also you mentioned House Bill 2, that's going to be the General Appropriations Act.
Okay.
A tax package hasn't been introduced yet, so that, and it's likely that a tax package will be much later in the session, because we need to see we're hoping that there's going to be another round of COVID-related stimulus and response. One of the things that we're looking to do with a tax package is to expand the working families tax credit. We've already, since I've been speaker, that tax has been expanded 70%, but there's more to go. And we can expand that. One idea that we're looking at is to, as a way of getting some stimulus, some support to people that file their taxes with ITIN as opposed to a social security number. That tends to be often people who are immigrants. They right now don't qualify for the working families tax credit because you have to have a social security number on your filings to get that. We can change that on a one-time or maybe on a permanent basis to allow. Right now, the price tag is $200 million. That's more than we can afford. But for $200 million, we could give all those ITIN filers a one-time refundable tax credit of up to $1,200 per filer. And we could use the working families tax credit as the vehicle to do that. That's one thing we're looking at. We also, in House Bill 6 that we passed in the 60-day session 2 years ago, that was the first time that we've added some progressivity to the personal income tax. And we raised the personal income tax 1% on higher income earners. That has come into effect for this tax year and is in effect right now. We want to, in addition to what we're looking at for the ITIN tax filers, we want to expand further the working families tax credit. I see Bill Jordan as one of the attendees. That's something that he and I and Javier Martinez, our tax chair, have worked on a lot because it is very, very effective. It's one of the most effective tax policies we have. And I can say that because the people that receive it, I think, on an average of 3 years. And then they don't qualify for it anymore, which is a good thing because it means that their income has increased to the point where they no longer need it. So to expand that, to put more funding into that, I think is a great way to help people get up. We have started the process of, in terms of capital gains, we've already undone a substantial portion of the capital gains tax reductions that Governor Richardson put in place. We're looking at doing more there. And the LICTR, which is the low income comprehensive tax refund, that is the federal analog that has also been fairly successful. This is a way to get funds to people at the lowest income levels. I'd like to expand the pool of the people that would qualify for it, as well as put more money into it. And what were some of the other ones that you said them all very quickly?
Yeah, I know. I apologize. The motor fuel tax rate was another one.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So and it'd be more than that. There's special fuels, motor fuel, diesel. They all need to be raised. The House passed in my, I think every session that I've been speaker, I think we have passed out of the House gas tax increase. We did once a 10 and once a 5 cent gas tax increase. We also increased the motor vehicle excise tax with that funding dedicated after a 3-year intercept. That money will be a permanent source of revenue to the road fund, which is the same place that the motor vehicle fuel tax goes. But a 10-cent tax with the new rate indexed to inflation is something that I'll support. And I think we go a long way to helping us stabilize our transportation infrastructure needs.
Got it. Thank you.
I mentioned at the beginning that this session, we're calling it the Health Affordability Fund. This is the one that reinstates at the state level the federal premium tax that was repealed when Trump had his huge tax package that passed in Washington. So we're going to put on a state version of that at the same rate. It generates about $110 million a year. Representative Debbie Armstrong is going to be the sponsor of that. It's on the governor's priority list. So we think that has a good chance of making it all the way this year. And that can generate up to $110 million of revenue. And we'd like to earmark a fair bit of that to healthcare spending. We're still kind of debating on what's the best way to get the best bang for our buck for those dollars, but that's another thing that we're going to be tackling this year.
Excellent. Thank you. The next one is about lowering small loan interest rates. So that legislation would cap the interest rate for small and installment loans from storefront lenders at 36% and eliminate loopholes through which lenders can create fees and other charges that can inflate rates exorbitantly. The bill would replace the current cap of 175% proposed in 2017. So do you support the bill? If not, what amendments would be needed to make it palatable? And a bit of context from Think New Mexico. They recently found that 85% of storefront lenders in New Mexico are owned outside of New Mexico, while the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau found that 80% of short-term loans are all rollover loans. So how do you react to the description of this industry as essentially, oh, that was a doggy, as essentially mining New Mexico's poverty
What
is one
was
of the
that?
cheapest natural resources?
Do we need to call the police or something? What's happening?
No, I think the dog is okay, but
Okay.
yeah, thank
Okay.
God. But yeah, so how would you respond to that framing of this industry mining poverty essentially in our state?
Well, I mean, that's why they call it predatory lending, right? I mean, it gets people sucked into a cycle of refinancing one loan with another, often at ever increasing rates. And New Mexico is one of the highest interest rates in the country. It was obviously it was lowered under the governorship of Susana Martinez. We took it down as low as she would approve, but we've got to go further. And the last chance we had to do this in the last 60-day session, I voted to send a 36% interest rate bill for consideration on the floor. I support it. I think we need to make sure that we keep in mind, that this is about helping people get out of the cycle of unaffordable debt, and that we need to also be thinking about, whether it's through a New Mexico bank or some other type of New Mexico development fund, is there a way that we could use that to give access to small loans in communities where the elimination of these payday loans companies is going to mean there's nowhere for folks to go. So I also like to explore ways that the state could step in and fill that vacuum for people who have emergencies and need to get small loans, but forcing folks in those kinds of situations to take out loans with huge fees and huge interest or both is just it's not fair. And this is, I think, probably the time that we're going to be able to get this problem fixed.
Excellent.
And we just yesterday had about a 45-minute hour meeting with Think New Mexico and Karen Myers on this. There are, by the way, I think there's going to be several bills on this. So as far as the process goes, don't be surprised if all the bills end up in a Senate committee or in a House committee and sort of get parked there while there's negotiations in one chamber or the other, and then a substitute kind of combining the best parts of all the bills comes out. And that's also true for the tax committee. I should mention for those who are maybe going to be following some of these things for the first time in the House, that we've got a process where every bill that goes into the tax committee gets tabled, every single one. And we hear the bill, we hear about the substance. These bills will all go to a substantive committee and then to the tax committee. So if we talk about the Health Affordability Fund bill, it'll go to Health Committee, then to tax. We'll hear it there and table it. And then we'll sometimes get an email saying, "Oh my God, you killed this, bill to, increase taxes on the wealthy," or you table the bill to increase the estate tax, or you table the bill for the gas tax. And what we do is we hold all of these tax bills for the last 7 to 10 days. And then once there's agreement between the House and the Senate, a single bill combining all the other bills into it will come out and get passed over to the Senate. So don't panic if a tax bill gets tabled, they all get tabled. And the reason we have to do that is because bills that have a cost to them, like electric vehicle tax credit, solar tax credit, things that we do to encourage renewables, things we do to encourage economic diversification. They all have a cost to the state's general fund, and we don't know until we get close to the end of the session, in effect, how much money we have to spend on tax expenditures. And so we hold these bills until we know how the budget is shaping up, and then we size our tax package appropriately.
Understood. Great. Thank you. And let's-
Speaker, can I go back to the tax and revenue reform? I didn't catch your answer on undertaking a regular evaluation process for all state tax expenditures and then repeal or reform those that show to be ineffective or inefficient.
Yeah.
Do that now for some tax expenditures, but a lot of them, we just don't gather the information.
Yep, I've supported that. That bill has passed the legislature unanimously over and over and over and over again, and every governor has vetoed it over and over and over and over again. I completely agree that we've got to do it. Tim Keller, when he was a senator, was the leader on this. Others, Matthew McQueen has been involved. I think Jeff Steinborn in the Senate has been involved in this. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like he's the one that has been doing this recently. It's got to happen, and we just need to get a governor that'll sign it. And but I have voted for that enthusiastically every time we can. You're exactly right. We also should pass legislation to change every tax exemption into a deduction, because right now, the tax department, at least, they won't share it with us, but at least they have information on how much those deductions cost. But a tax exemption, the amount does not get reported to the tax department. Because if it's exempt from taxation, you don't have to tell the tax department that you receive that income. It's completely exempt. So we have no idea how much tax exemptions cost us.
Can you tell me why the governors have vetoed these bills in the past?
Well, I mean, you'd have to ask them to be certain, but governors of both parties tend to veto bills that they think constrain their power, which this would.
Okay.
So I have a question for you, Speaker, and I know you're about out of time, but I get so many emails about this lately, about whether or not the legislature has plans to introduce legislation that would prohibit open carry within a quarter mile or some distance of the roundhouse and other county and city offices where they conduct hearings. Is that something that might be on the table?
For the foreseeable future at the Capitol, because of the security that's going up, I mean, you saw the paper this morning, so it's not a secret that fences and other physical barriers are coming in, and they're going to be at quite a distance from the building. I'm going to have to see what the security situation looks like before I can give you an opinion on whether I think it's a good and safe idea to engage in firearms legislation in a session that is planned to be entirely closed to the public. We're going to have legislation that will be, for reasons that I completely disagree with, but the abortion decrim bill. It's going to be massively controversial. I don't think it should be, but that doesn't mean it won't be. And we're going to have major demonstrations. And I fear that people are going to be even angrier than they otherwise might have been because they're not going to be allowed inside the building. The other issue area that causes similar public response is firearms bills. And I don't think, I need to see if we can do it in a way that's safe for the public and for the staff and for the members, because I don't want to see something like we saw on January 6th to pass a bill that right now law enforcement, if they see a person open carrying and they believe that person poses a threat, they can arrest and detain that person right now. So I'm just given the information that I've been given and what I've been seeing about specific and credible allegations of the security of the building, it's making me very attuned to all the things we need to do to make this place safe going forward. And yeah, so I need to, that's one where, I mean, everyone on this call is getting a very unfiltered and very real answer. I can't say. I mean, I would support the legislation, but whether or not we can do it safely is a separate question.
Thank you for that,
Understood.
Speaker.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very, very difficult time, and in some ways, it seems like this would be the time to do it. And then I hadn't even thought about the how it could incite people to violence, and you've got enough on your hands right now.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if we do it and don't enforce it, then that makes the situation worse than it is right now, right? So if we see someone, if we were to pass the bill and if it were signed, then you see, the law enforcement officer sees someone carrying a long gun, across the street. The expectation is that that law enforcement officer is going to have to engage with that person, and that potentially, can create a situation that escalates. So there's a lot to consider on this one.
Yeah, what a strange and unfortunate time. Well, we know we've taken the allotted time, and we just want to thank you for providing honest, clear answers to these questions. Hopefully this was illuminating for the attendees. Thanks for giving your constituents some time. And yeah, my heart is with all of y'all this session. I know how difficult it is.
Thank you. Oh, there's Pam Gilchrist. Hi, Pam. So I think we just had a little bit of time today. We may try in the week 2 or 3 of the session to do another one, kind of give an update on where things are at and how things are going. If you'd be interested, I think we'd be happy to schedule something during the session.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe. Wear your masks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.